So AdZel presents polished, committed performances of stunning new works from the Clarinet Journal. AdZel Duo has performed and taught at Carnegie Hall, Eastman School of Music, Juilliard School, University of Michigan, Northwestern University, the Costa Rica International Clarinet Festival, the International Clarinet Association ClarinetFest, woo-woo, University of Delaware, the European Clarinet Conference, Oklahoma Clarinet Symposium, Zodiac Festival, Imani Wins, Chamber Music Festival, San Francisco Conservatory, University of California at Irvine, University of Kansas, Rutgers School of Music, and the Yale School of Music, among others, working with the leading voices of contemporary music such as Mohammed Fairouz, Jason Barabba, Annie Guzzo, Forrest Pierce, Sergio Delgado, Ingrid Stolzel, Jennifer Bellor, Beth Wiemann, Rachel Whelan, and others. AdZel is committed to new dialogues in sound. Their unique performances have been lauded as truly inspiring and beautifully presented. Blending original music and spoken word, their concerts combine education and music into a modern language that embraces diversity in classical music. Lauded by the clarinet for compelling unity of sound and excellent ensemble, the ensemble is one of the most dynamic ensembles on the music scene today. Again, thank you both so much for being here today. I'm so sorry about your technological issues, but thank you.
Oliver, where are you playing from today?
Iowa.
Iowa. Okay, great. Good to hear you. This is just so special to hear you play this. Thank you. I can tell you've worked so hard on your syncopations, and it's great. Thank you. Right? That's, of course, like the number one thing we're looking for in this. Now that you're doing such a good job at counting, I think you could work on a bigger line, because now you're like, okay, I'm counting. Could we try it again from the beginning? And can you try sustaining the line just a little bit more? It sounds very in the moment, and I'd love to hear a longer line from you. Can you try that?
All right.
Oliver, thank you so much. And in service of that, just make sure that your very first note is not the loudest note, but you're going on a long phrase, bum, 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 ba-da-da, and then get a little softer after that important note. Dee, da, 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 da. Go all the way to the end. You sound really beautiful. Could you sit up even more? Feel like someone's pulling your hair up to the ceiling and your spine is straightening. You can even put your stand a little higher. Do that once again. Oh my goodness, no, we can't. You got it. Yeah, this always happens to me too. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you, assistant too. Okay, Oliver, try that once again. Okay, that's awesome. How tall can you be?
Sitting up for you.
Okay, good, Oliver. And right there, wonderful. You sound beautiful. It really is great. And then right at that moment, you're doing the clarinet thing that we all do, where your posture was so great at the beginning. And then as you it just kind of comes down. So right there where you stop, that's a great moment to kind of readjust, open up, and keep going. Can you go right from where you stopped and stay up and just soloistic? Great, Oliver, love it. Thank you so much. And then, you do with the syncopation so well. And then sometimes when we get to the end of it, it's still sounding like the syncopation's going. So when you get to the end of that phrase, make sure it sounds like punctuation, period. So da 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 dun 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 da, and make it sound like this is the end of a phrase, and then go on to the next one. Can you take it about 8 bars where you just stop right now? Make the ends of your phrases louder and more conclusive.
Where do you want me to play again?
About 8 bars before where you just stop right now would be great. Good, great. Yeah, nice. And then Oliver, you know how you had that big cadence where you did so lovely. You made it sound really like the end of a phrase. Let's add like a piano-ish after that, just again, so you have room for the phrase to grow. Because it sounds beautiful, but no matter what you have in the music, give me more contours of the phrase. It ends up sounding kind of mezzo forte, forte all the time. And I think if you add some more softs at the beginning of your phrase, that'll help you crescendo a little bit more dramatically.
All right.
Take it from the end of your awesome, cadence that you just did about 8 bars before where you stopped. Oliver, that's a perfect place to stop. I'll take it. But remember, we're all doing the clarinet stuff. So everyone on the Zoom, let's all kind of, with Oliver, get as tall as you can, okay? Oliver, give me your best posture and then go on.
Good. Thank you. Good. Yeah, that was great. I echo everything that she said. And when we say phrases, sometimes it doesn't necessarily make sense, but it's just like how you speak. Do you like this piece?
Yeah.
Can you say the phrase, I really like this piece?
I really like this piece.
Now say it with conviction.
I really like this piece.
Good. That way that you use your voice, it's very similar to how we conceptualize what musical phrases are. So the fact that I'm even raising my voice and bringing it down, and I'm kind of giving you a little bit of anticipation because I really want you to know what I'm about to tell you. Just the same way we deliver that, that's a little bit of what Stefan was getting in the phrases. So remember that how you're vocalizing your phrases has a lot to do with how you speak. So if you just talk like this, and maybe I'm not saying you do, but if you do like that, you're more likely to play that way and to not hear the fact that it's sounding a little more rhythmic as opposed to phrasing. So having you just you reacted immediately to that listening. So do that next time for the whole piece, right? So try to listen to that cadence and that rise and fall. And a lot of times it has to do with just the airspeed and where your tongue position is. So I think you're doing great work. You have great hand position too. I see them flying over the place. Make sure you don't rest your elbow on your leg like you are right now. But listen, we all do it. I get teased for doing this all the time. But this is my way to sit up straight so that I don't just slouch over, right? And little things like that, it affects the sound. If I was to talk like this, it would not sound so great. So we bring everything up, give the lungs their full capacity at all times. Thank you so much. It was great to hear you. And thanks for playing twice.
Yeah, great job. 10 times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you so much, Oliver. Thank you. Our next performer is Cole Austin. He's coming to us from Alexandria, Virginia.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cole.
Hi, my name is Cole Austin. I go to Alexandria City High School in Alexandria, Virginia, obviously. Today I'll be playing Rosé No. 1 from the 32. Hope you enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you, Cole. Ooh,
Of course.
A little bit echo. Nice. That was really lovely. I don't get to hear that on bass clarinet enough.
Yeah.
So that was a joy. And I get the feeling that you really like this.
I do.
Like the Rose
yeah.
Etude. If I can you give me one of the contextual clues of Cyril Rose?
Say that again. Sorry, it's a little bit of a audio thing. What's up?
Yeah. We have the echo too. What is something that you associate with the Rose Etude?
I really like the smoothness and the balance between the smoothness and the technicality and lyricism of every single etude, because in reality, one etude can be technical and one etude can be lyrical. But I feel like there's a balance between the two, and in this one, there was just that perfect, like, I don't know, balance between technical and lyrical, and I feel like it sticks out to me because I don't know, I don't say it much, but this etude it's similar to like a person's life. Like you're starting out from the lowest note, you're going to the highest note, you have a little bit of conflict going down, you get to the middle point of the piece, and it's all of a sudden like so weird and technical and stuff. Even though it's very soft, it's like a balance between, like, you have hard things in life, and then you can just basically do them as smooth as you can.
I love that. I love everything you said, and it's slightly ironic because what you're describing in a way, the context that Rose developed his career in was opera.
Yeah.
So a lot of these pieces have this lyrical aspect and then the technical aspects that can then feed the next lyrical aspect, right?
Yeah.
And in lyricism, there is a need to be smooth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I'm going to jump in and say is when you're pushing that air, the bass clarinet, which has a little bit more resistance in the diaphragm that you have to have, right?
Yeah.
And I love the vibrato that you're using, and that piece will believe me, this etude will live in different incarnations throughout your career.
Yeah.
It will mean different things. So what it means to you right now, this is recorded, you can go back and listen to this, what you said about it in 10 years, because it will feel different in 10 years. But try to get your body in a place that is reflecting that lyricism so that your line gets a little more of that smoothness every single time. So sometimes I got the smoothness out of your playing, and sometimes you had what I like to call the extra iron lung. This guy kept going, right? And once you get this guy going in your brain, it tells you somehow subconsciously that you're sustaining the line when in fact it's taking away from it, and it takes away from the smoothness. So anytime that it might have lost its phrasing, I felt like the bagpipe arm started coming into effect. So see if you can just start the beginning, use your diaphragm to make that shaping, that need to kind of, gesticulate on this side. See if you can get that into your air and to really carve out the smoothness, like a paintbrush, just moving across the canvas in one unbroken line. Just the first, let's see, the first like 5 bars.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Good job resisting. I saw it. You just wanted to kind of creep up there.
Yeah.
And because all of a sudden your focus will actually go into a different place. Your focus will get into kind of the sustaining quality of the air and how it's producing the phrase. And I think that just copy and paste that effort throughout the whole piece. You'll hear a difference in your phrasing for sure.
I'm like, because I'm just so excited. Thank you. Like, those are all just such great words. And it's so wonderful hearing you play like this because, we're getting old now. We used to be like the young things, and now we're kind of getting old. And it's up to you to take this music and sort of make it applicable for your generation. And hearing you play like this today is just so inspiring to me because I feel like you get who he was as a person. And it's just so current and so you, and I love it. I'm like, this is such great music forever. So I thank you. It's just awesome to hear you play this.
Thank you so
I have
much.
just Yeah, thanks. I have just two small things because I feel like you're giving it away just on tiny details. Number one, you're playing the whole thing with great passion, but it's all kind of musically homogenous. And I think that you can bring out some of your more introverted moments. For example, when you get down to tempo one, why not, add two pianos on it and give us kind of that, maybe that softer side of you? Because it's just out. It's like bravado, which is great. But here, how about. You want to try it right there and just see if it can come to that more introspective side.
Okay, yeah, sure.
That's great. How about this same thing, 3 lines up from the end at the a tempo?
Yeah, okay, so you want me to... Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
just
Keep trying.
Yeah. I don't really think you do too much on this line. Let Rose kind of celebrate.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. First of all, I love that I told you to do something and you did too much, which is great.
Oh,
Because
okay.
when a conductor tells you to do something and you don't do anything, they're going to get mad at you.
Yeah.
So right now, that was too dead. So can you split the difference now and, be musical on it, but just don't feel like you have to do too much passion here. Kind of let it speak for itself. Try it again. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Then here's my idea about this too. I love that, by the way. And I would just kind of go through. You probably have done this already. Where are you like extrovert? Here you're like, then you're like happy puppy, and then you're like, cloudy day or something. Like, have you gone through and written down the different characters in your music?
So I haven't done specifically that. I just, in certain spots, I just write like beginning part of your life, middle part of your life, closing to the end of your life. That's what I do.
And by the way, I hear that. I totally hear that, which is such a good opera story because that's all of Weber is basically like beginning of your life, things go wrong, middle of your life, end of your life, regret, And I kind of feel that in this. Was that your idea with this one? Was sort of like this progression?
So I picked this piece up about, I don't know, maybe 3.5 months ago, and I think it was about 3 weeks ago when I started to actually realize like what I was doing. So then I started to mark that stuff in, and yeah.
I hear it. So here's what I would challenge you to do then is now take it to the next level and be like, okay, here's middle age, I'm my person, here's heartbreak, here's stuff like that. I think you can go deeper on this great stuff you've done. And then I am just going to be a real meanie about this, which is, you are taking a lot of rubato on this, which is great in some ways, but sometimes I don't feel where center is. Like, remember Picasso? I don't know if you've ever seen his paintings, but he puts like an eyeball where an elbow is supposed to go and things like that. But in his early life, he actually did hyper-realistic sketches before he did all this crazy stuff. So I feel sometimes like you're using so much rubato that you're sort of obfuscating the line. So I would challenge you, we probably don't have time today, but in your own practicing, just really put the metronome on and then weave around it. Because sometimes, for example, if you come back to like a C or a G, which is basically what everything revolves around in this, you don't hold them quite long enough, and I don't get that feeling of repose because you're kind of rushing off your long notes a little bit. So I'm like, oh, I just needed to digest that a little bit. And then the other thing too, at the beginning, even on that first phrase, when you go, when you have the G to C, that's a big moment where the G has to be a little higher because it's the fifth going to the C, and you're actually a little bit low. So I think it's just so good and so musical. So just kind of go back with some of those like intonation things and, just accuracy of rhythm, and it's just gonna just tie everything together because you're just so musical. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. I'll definitely do that.
Great. It sounded so good.
Good job.
I love that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Cole. Appreciate it. Great job. Next up, we're going to have Zoe Kenner, who's going to play the Paul Jean-Jean 16 minor etudes number 3. She is joining us from Utah, and she is a student of Laura Grantier, who I believe is in the room with us as well.
Hi. Do you want me to just go on and play it?
Yep. Jump
Okay.
on it.
Okay, sounds great.
nice.
This
Great,
is
well,
a
beautiful.
yeah. This is a really tough one. And these ones aren't played as much. I don't get the.
I don't teach these ones as much. They're great.
I'm really happy to discover these because I love Jean-Jean, and he's not played as much in France. I want to say I feel like they use some of the etudes, but not all of them, and it's nice to discover this because the vocabulary is very similar. And I really love how you are getting some of this dreamy character because it goes a lot into these whole tone scales that can sound like at the sound of the page. Turn, when from this kind of almost phantasmical feel. So I really like that you were doing that, and I feel like you were getting the wispiness and the push and pull of because there's a lot in Jean-Jean, right? It's a lot of this kind of running and then running back, and rushing of sound and rushing back, and you were doing it so well. I think it's such a long piece. When you have that moment to repose, you were doing it, but each and every time, really make sure you're like relaxing your embouchure so that there's no temptation to kind of bite, especially when you have to do larger leaps. And I think that's something that this comes back so much. There's moments where you have to rest your embouchure, but not your diaphragm. Makes sense, right? You kind of rest, but you kind of have to keep everything up so that you don't relax so much that the next time you produce a sound, it's crunchy. Right? We get that little like or and that's often because we're not lining everything up just so. So I want to just take the opening, if you don't mind, and I want to see a little bit of the dee-da-da, 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 and you have that leap from the C to the D. Right. It's right in the third bar. See if you can have your diaphragm ready for that leap so that there's no desire to kind of clamp down in your embouchure to get to that, because you don't need it, right? You just need to lift your air a little bit. You can start right in the opening is fine.
Okay, sounds great.
Yeah, that was great. And like it kept this like long, placid feel, which is really great. Now, in that second line at the pianissimo espressivo, that's a good example of where you're like building up with your dynamic, and then there's a séparé, right? It says like separate this, but you might have to take a pause, but you don't bring anything down. You don't relax anything. Can you start right in that bar? So that's 1, 2. The sixth bar.
Yeah.
Right, there's a lot of these little like bird calls in this etude. So see if you can do that without dropping the air on the E to kind of keep the motion going. Because what ends up happening is you do this, and then it stops, and then it goes again. We want to keep that. That's part of the phrasing. That's where you keep your diaphragm engaged, but you don't drop anything.
Okay.
6 bar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
try it again and see if that E has that anticipation to the F sharp without dropping anything. So keep your air up on that E.
Okay.
Yeah. And that little bit of like sustaining with that sound, it's basically the sound before you take a breath or before you have a rest. Often we've concentrated so much at the beginning of our phrases that by the time we get to like a end of our phrase, we're like, and then the sound will reflect that, right? So we want to kind of just keep everything up. I always think of like, have you been around dancers, ballet dancers, or even just dancers? They have the best posture. they're just walking around with, even when they're just in repose, everything is so straight. And I think of that sometimes when I feel my diaphragm wanting to crumple down at the end of a phrase because you're squeezing out the air. So that was great. I love that. And so, and the grace notes even faster. Right? You can make everything a little more bird-like. I think this has a little bit of an air of Messiaen.
Yeah.
You know, half the time, Stravinsky, Messiaen, Ravel, they're all just imitating birds.
Yeah.
They're the most melodic animals out there. And, you know, we're not going to try to imitate a hyena very much, right? Or an elephant. There are some pieces, but most of the time it's birds, and so to get that feeling, we have to control our air a lot and make sure we're not relaxing, dropping in between. Keep that like ballet posture up in your embouchure and in your body so that you can maintain everything. And then when the piece is done, crumple back to the floor if you need to, but just keeping it up will make a really big difference.
You know, Messiaen would even take it far enough that he was into ornithology, so it would be like specific birds. So I love this bird idea. You could even, again, just kind of go through and be like cockatoo, parakeet, you know, just kind of write in exactly which one you want to be. So shout out to you. You sound beautiful, and I really felt like when you played through the whole thing, you made it an experience and a piece. Also, it wasn't like, an etude. It was an experience, like a real piece of music that I heard you singing, which was great. And shout out to your teacher, who is like such a fantastic musician, so I can kind of see that imprint on you also, and that beautiful musicality that she has, which is great. Let me ask you a question. So you're in Utah right now? Is that where you're playing from?
Yeah.
Where are you in Utah? Can I ask like what region you're in?
Right now I'm in Farmington, which is like 30 minutes north of Salt Lake. South of Salt Lake?
Kind of
Yeah.
Provo-ish up there.
It's the opposite direction of Provo.
Opposite direction. Okay, Provo.
Yes. It's between like Ogden and Salt Lake.
Okay.
Like in the middle of the two. Yeah.
So it's still winter, and are you at like 6,000 feet elevation, or how high are you?
That is such a good question.
Right?
I
About
know
5,000 feet. About 5,000 feet.
Thanks, Laura. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So you're probably used to it, but you know, the rest of us, when we go out there, we're like, So you're doing great. I would say my trick that I don't need in Nashville at all right now, because we have the opposite weather, it's like way too much moisture here. But do you have the sponge and the mouthpiece cap? And you always put the mouthpiece cap on. So this is my Colorado, which is where I lived before Kansas. Always have the sponge in my mouthpiece cap, and I always have it on the reed. So I noticed, like, when we're talking to you, you're like, okay, you got the reed out. And I'm like, oh, that reed is getting so dry. And I think one of the things that Miriam's talking about like keeping the air going and everything, you could just do that by putting a sponge in there, put it on, and it's always going to keep the reed kind of humid when you go to play.
Okay,
So
that's cool.
that's a great, yeah, go ahead.
Is it just like a dry sponge in there, or is it like?
So it's a wet sponge, and this one probably has all sorts of chemicals and stuff on it. So don't get the green one. Go to like a health food store or something. And you just get like a kitchen sponge, cut out the shape of your mouthpiece cap, put it in, and then it's just moist. It's not super wet. I'll kind of take it, I'll put it under the sink, I'll let it get kind of moist, and then I'll dry it off as much as I can. I put it exactly in the mouthpiece cap, and so it's laying flat. If it's laying flat, it won't hurt the reed at all. And then I just put it on, and it just kind of keeps it humid, so I can always pull it out. And because otherwise the extremes, especially where you're living, you're going from, I don't know what our mouths are, 90% humidity, it's like a swamp, right? And then you're in a desert. You're like in a high desert where you are right now. So I think that's going to help, because I see when you got into some of the louder stuff, you're like, oh, the reed, you know? And that's just so common. You're doing great for being up there. It's amazing. You know, if we go to the second page, sorry, I can never work an iPad. It's different to everyone. Now it's a metronome. Now it's a tuner. Now it's a recording device. If we skip down on your second page, down to 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say like the 5th line down, your second measure. Okay, I know this is like really specific, but you see how you have a G that's tied over right there, and then you have a B that's tied over into the next bar?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is one of the examples of something that I kind of hear throughout the piece, which is you have been counting this like crazy, Zoe, right? Like how much time do you spend counting this? A lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. And I feel sometimes when you're playing this, I feel like I'm seeing a beautiful mansion, but somebody kind of forgot the scaffolding out front. So right there, you drop your air when you do a tie to make sure that your counting's okay. And I kind of think this is like part of what Miriam's talking about too, is you're like, okay, and here is the next beat. And you're counting it so well that now I think you can like remove the scaffolding and just let the paint shine on this beautiful mansion that you built. So do you mind, can we do it from right there in, what is that, line? Let's do line 5. Let's do line 5, even though that's a weird place to start. And when you have these ties, can you subdivide it? But if you're a listener, don't drop your air and don't let us be aware of, oh, here's the next beat, here's the next beat. Just let the line kind of, you know, take over. Connect. Yeah, connect.
Okay.
There's a word for this. Yeah, connect. Can we do line 5?
Yeah. Are you good if I start like last bar of line 4 to make it like
I
a
didn't know how to describe it.
Okay.
That's something better.
Okay, thank you.
So yes. Yeah. And right there on that G, you kind of retake. You do it like a little da because you're so used to doing that practicing. In fact, well, let's do that. And I'll tell you about one other thing. Can you take it the same place you started and the same thing on that G? You do the subdividing work, but don't stop the sound on the G so we hear it, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, and then carry
And
through
then
it.
to the-
Keep going, keep going, keep going. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, and I think that's sometimes why you're cutting some of these long notes a little bit short because you're just subdividing like crazy. So I would just record yourself and then listen back and be like, okay, can I be in time but not stop my air to kind of mark those beats, especially on these tied notes. In fact, you had one, the line after that you're playing right now. What the heck does that mean? I can't see it. Oh, leggero.
Leggero.
Sorry, there's like an accent. I'm like, vledge? What's vledge? Okay, leggero. You see where there's that B that's tied over right at the leggero? I think you actually retongue the B. So don't retongue it because you're trying to subdivide so much. Can you take it right there, the measure before the leggero? Subdivide like crazy, but you connect everything. Keep going from here, okay?
Okay.
And Zoe, in fact, that first B, connect. Just carry through.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and then keep going because it's really this next B that I want to hear you connect, okay?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then keep going. Yeah, keep your air going even when you got these long notes, okay?
Okay.
Good, Zoe. That's great.
Yeah, and
so,
if you notice, like, sorry, but
Yeah.
these, right, that phrase you had before was all centered around the G's, right? You're like you're hitting those G's with little filigree around it, but you're really, those G's are the ones that need to resonate, and then you move up to the B, right? And now it's all the filigree around the B. So if you keep that in your ear, that is the overriding note that we want to really sing on. The other stuff with your fast air and your diaphragm and all that, then it will all come out and those notes will be able to sing even more. So that the fast notes won't feel kind of, choppy in there, but they'll have that fluidity. So it's like listening for the singing notes, and then all the the little butterflying around them is all the faster notes, right? But then we have these like singing notes. It's like Snow White walking through and she's got those birds all around her, and she's singing to them. But the motion of the core of the line is always there. And in Jean, it's always masqueraded by all these fun notes. So don't get lost in the fun notes, right? Keep it going so that you can focus on the sustaining of those sounds. But this is great. I thought that was already like even better.
Beautiful. So better. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you so much, Zoe. You sound amazing. Thank you. All right, I want to welcome back all the participants. So Oliver and Cole, if you guys could come back. Just want to congratulate you both again. Congratulations. Thank you for playing for us today. And of course, I want to thank so much the AdZel Duo, Dr. Stephanie Zelnick and Miriam Adam. Thank you so much for your time today. Does anybody have any questions for the AdZel Duo? We have maybe like 2 minutes or so before we have to head over to the next session.
I have a quick question for you guys. So what's your normal routine for every single week, or how many performances do you do in a month or something?
Well, it was more when I was living in the States, and then when I went abroad, we had a harder time getting that regular activity together. We have known each other for 30 years. 30 years. So the AdZel Duo has been around for about 15. And so the short answer is that when we can, we get together. We're both now, I'm a professor at the Bellor School of Music at University of Kansas, so there is a limitation of the school's calendar. But whenever we can get together, I think as you get older, you learn how to rehearse efficiently, because you don't always have an 8-hour window. But if we have 8 hours, you better believe we're going to use as much as we can to go through music that we know, to learn new music. We're commissioning things. And right now we're in a patch, which is why this all worked out so beautifully. We are in a patch of we're going to do some recording. We have some new pieces coming out, some oldies of goodies and some new pieces. And then we're doing some other master classes in the area. And we get to do some festivals together when we can. But if you have somebody that you have some synergy with and that you have a good collaborative energy, it should be easy to get an ensemble together. And I think I can say that with Stephanie, with the Imani Winds, there's always this level of you should be able to bring out the best in each other. You should find out what each other's strengths are and even the weaknesses, but don't pull on the weaknesses if it's not giving strength to the ensemble, right? To know what people are good at and use that to the benefit of the ensemble. So we work with what we have, which is not a lot of time these days, but always grateful when we can get the time together now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any questions? You can just raise your hand. If not, totally fine. Okay, I don't see anybody. If not, I'll hand it over to Jessica so she can tell us what's coming next.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.